Mr. President, today our country lost an American hero, Colonel John Glenn, Senator John Glenn. I will be back at a later date to deliver a more formal tribute with my colleague, Senator Portman, but I want to share some initial thoughts as I, along with my wife, Connie, and so many Ohioans mourn for John Glenn and join so many people around the country that loved him and cared for him and respected him. It's been one of the great blessings of my life to get to know John Glenn and for Connie and me to count him and Annie as mentors and friends. We remember just a few short years ago on the 50th anniversary of his flight into space, the night before we had dinner with John and Annie, Connie and I and John and Annie and his children, David and Lynn, and his daughter-in-law, David's wife, and how interesting and joyous it was to just hear him recount his experiences and so much of what he's done. We loved him, we'll miss him, we'll continue to draw strength and wisdom from the lessons he shared with us over the years. First time I met John Glenn, 1969. It was Colonel Glenn then, long before he was elected to the Senate. Colonel Glenn spoke to an Eagle Scout dinner in Mansfield, Ohio. Only a few short weeks earlier, I was in my court of honor. I was awarded the Eagle Scout. I got the Eagle Scout Award. I was 16 years old. I got to meet Colonel Glenn. His words inspired us. They stayed with me as I grew up and looked for ways to serve community and country. 38 years later, John granted me the great honor of walking me down this center aisle. When senators are sworn in, any term they serve, they are accompanied by often the senator from their state or a former senator, or whomever that senator-elect or that senator soon to be sworn in chooses, and I chose to walk down with my friend and former senator at that point, John Glenn. John's kindness, he had a humility and a kindness unusual, and perhaps in this business, and perhaps somebody of his level of accomplishment. His kindness, his intelligence, his courage, we know about that. His commitment to service set an example that our country needs today more than ever. His legacy will live on, not just in the pages of history books, it'll live on through the Americans he inspired, whether it was a passion for exploration that led him to join NASA, a dedication to country that called him to the armed forces, a desire to make the world a better place that led him to public service. John will live in the hearts of everyone who knew and loved him, including his beloved wife, Annie, and his wonderful children, Lynn and David. I spoke with Annie and John on their 73rd wedding anniversary. And Annie told me the story that I knew they knew each other in grade school. They dated beginning, I don't know exactly when. I asked Annie if they wanted to marry in high school, and she said yes, but her parents said they couldn't do that because it wouldn't last, so they waited till after Pearl Harbor when I believe John was 20 and Annie was 21, and married for 73 plus years. Ohio and the United States have lost a great light today, but that pales into comparison to what we gained over his 95 years on earth. I hope my colleagues will join me in sending out our love and prayers to John's family at this difficult time during the holidays. I heard John Glenn's stories even today when the ceremony unveiling the portrait of Democratic leader Harry Reid took place in the Russell Building, and a number of former colleagues of John's came up to me, and they had just heard of his death that happened mid-afternoon today. So I thank them for their memories and remembrances.